Overwatch hasn't had a ban system in a really long time, and even then, it wasn't really a real ban system. So is it time to bring one back now? Well, that's the question I really want to answer today. So, just a couple days ago, Face It League, which is like a big like external tournament league that is partnered with Blizzard. It's basically like OWCS, but like Face It runs it, but it's kind of like to that level, just maybe a step down. There was an article saying that there's reportedly a hero ban system coming to the Face It League. And what that means is don't freak out. It's not coming to the real game. It's not going to be in the game client. It's going to be something for this tournament. But I thought it was pretty interesting how it's been implemented. And the last time we had hero bans was like over 4 years ago at this, maybe not over, but like 4 years ago at this point. So I think no, they had it in 2021 too, but regardless, it's been a long time. So I wanted to look at how they're implementing it here and see like maybe is it time that Overwatch got some kind of in-game hero ban system? What's the pros and cons to how they do it here, how we could do it on live. So basically, there's not much you need to know about this. It sounds like Face It may be experimenting with this. This is a Dexerto article. I'm not sure if they are the ones who broke it, but basically how this works is that I'll read here. The proposed system would allow both teams to ban one hero per map, with each ban only affecting the opposing team. However, both teams may decide to ban the same hero. Additionally, teams won't be able to ban a hero more than once in the same series. So, if Luminosity and M80 are playing and they go to map 5, they wouldn't be able to they ban Tracer on the first map, they wouldn't be able to ban them for the next 4 maps. And then when they go into the next game against Toronto or something, they would be able to refresh. So basically in the same series, same set of games. The lower seed in the series would be able to ban a hero first, with the loser of each map able to make another choice. Okay. Basically, they get one hero ban, and the weird thing is that it only applies to the other team. So this is like a really strategic hero ban system. I know a lot of games have a hero ban system where it's like it affects everybody. Both teams can't play those heroes. So at that point, it's like really more of like there's characters that we don't like and we really just don't want to play against, so we ban them. I know Siege had a problem where even if he wasn't good, Jackal was so annoying that I tried to play Siege again a couple years ago, and I never even played against a Jackal one time because every single game I tried to play, he was banned. So yeah, there's those kind of systems, and then there's this kind of system where it's like, hey, we know that they are going to be probably running a certain style of gameplay, right? They have the best Tracer player in the world. They have Proper or Kevster or whoever on the other team. So we are going to ban Tracer for this map where we think they have the advantage. Maybe it's a better map for them. They have a good win record on it. And then they're going to take one of their strategies away so that they can try and level the playing field. That's kind of what these bans are for. They aren't really to ban any certain kind of comps or anything because, the heroes are going to come back the next game for whatever team. The one thing to note here is that if let's say the lower team, they ban the first hero, they ban Tracer or something. The next team, they can they kind of have the power here because if you go, okay, so they ban Tracer, so they don't want us to play a dive style, or maybe they're assuming we're going to play Winston or something, right? What they can do is go, okay, I know with them, they want to play Reinhardt or something. Maybe they're Space Station, London Spitfire. So let's just, since we're second, and we know they don't want us to play this, let's just ban Rein, And now their counter strategy has been countered, and now it's like, oh god, now everyone's in a weird spot where nobody really knows what to play, and they're going to kind of stitch something together. I think the idea of having bans that are, changing every single map is really interesting because you do have to come up with solutions on the fly, and you're down, potentially key parts of your composition. If you ban Ash, that's one thing. If you ban Lucio, how you play the game fundamentally has changed. So it's a really weird system. I could see a lot of times where, like, if we're in like a hard brawl meta and one team bans Lucio and the other one doesn't, maybe the team that banned Lucio for the other team, maybe they just wipe the floor. Or maybe a lot of times teams are just going to be like, what did they ban? We're going to ban that for them so that they're playing mirror again. This is a really, like, early, I think they say it like this is evolving. It's exploratory. That's the phrase that they use. So I wouldn't like put too much stock into this. Obviously this isn't coming to the main game in any form or fashion, but basically this kind of idea had me thinking about what would hero bans look like if we were to put them in the main game. They have existed in some way before for everyone, not even just in Overwatch League. It did come to the game for a little bit in the form of hero pools. And what hero pools were a basically random selection of heroes were just pulled out of the pool, and you couldn't play them for like a week or two. So like one tank, one support, 2 DPS were pulled out every week or so, and then you weren't able to play those in your ranked game. This was to coincide with Owl, because Owl had the hero bans, and then when Owl banned those heroes, they would go ban them on ladder so that the pros could practice regularly, right? Like what they would be playing. They don't want to practice into compositions that aren't even going to be possible in Owl because the heroes were banned. Initially, this applied to everybody on ladder. Eventually, they only applied it, I think, to GM Plus, if I'm not mistaken. I say GM Plus, so like there's anything higher than GM. Maybe it was Masters Plus, I'm not sure. It was the higher ranks. Only the higher ranks got the hero pools. And then eventually they just removed them from the live game entirely because it's really frustrating. If you just want to get on and play your one character that you play, regardless if that's a great way to play the game or not, but if you have one character you like, you love Sombra, that's the only character you play, you log on one day and Sombra is literally unavailable completely for a week or two, why would you even play the game at that point? Like, you just stop playing for 2 weeks until she's available. That's a terrible system. It wasn't really a good idea. It wasn't a great solution. The hero pools started in Owl. They were like completely random, basically. I don't know if they started completely random. They started, at least at some point, it was like, so this character was played a lot, so they get more entries into the pool of possible banned heroes. And this character was literally not played at all, so they're not going to be in the pool. So it was more likely that heroes that were played a lot were going to be banned. I remember one time they had Zoe's cat pick. Her cat just kind of touched whatever card, and whatever card it was they picked, and they screamed in excitement when they actually picked Mei after like the 4th time they had done this, trying so hard to ban Mei. But what were the advantages of that hero pool system? I mean, yeah, the meta shifted, and that's true, and double shield comps weren't weren't played as often. Sometimes weird heroes got taken out of the pool, like when Sigma goes away, but Ori is so strong and Poke is so strong, what do you do? How do you complement Ori? And then they would play like weird, Ori D.Va, try and piece it together. Honestly, I think that's really cool for Overwatch 1 in particular, because tank synergies were so strong and compositions were so, so strong. It's like when you're playing Ori, you're playing Sig. When you're playing Reinhardt, you're playing D.Va. Maybe you play Sig. If you're playing Winston, you're probably playing Zarya or D.Va. Like, there were not many choices to go around. So when you finally did disrupt it, it was like, oh, we finally get to see some new compositions, some new synergies that maybe aren't as good, but we do get to see them because that's what's best now. I think that's cool in theory. I think that mainly went for tanks, and now that we only have one tank in the game, it doesn't really matter that much. I think really what the bad thing is for a competitive standpoint is that, coaches were never given time to prepare. You never know what's going to be meta. You just have to figure it out on the fly. It's like when a patch drops in the middle of a series or like a tournament like run, and you have to just adapt to it on the fly. But that was like they were doing it like every week or every 2 weeks, and that was a crazy amount for the coaches to have to figure out, and then for the teams to try to implement properly. So it was a bit of a clown fiesta, and as a spectator and my first year watching Owl, it was great. I loved watching the clown fiesta, but at some point the spectator has to be removed from the equation because that is too much. That's too much to ask of them. And I think hero bans happened like in 2021 for like a stage or two and not for others, and that was like the plan to begin with. I don't really know what happened there. But since then we haven't seen any kind of ban system. And in fact, I don't really think the dev team have talked too much about a ban system. But since we finally hit 40 heroes, I think it is kind of time to discuss maybe we can have a ban system. Maybe we can, shake the game up a little bit. So the easiest way, or at least like the most sensible way to put it into the game, is to do it somewhat like other comp games do, where you load in and you do your bans, right? League of Legends has like a snake ban where it's like one team bans one, the other team bans two, and they go on and so forth until 10 characters are banned. Obviously, Overwatch can't ban that many heroes because that is a fourth of the roster, as opposed to League, where it's like, I don't know, like a 20th of the roster, maybe like a 15th. Much different type, much different like number wise. Everybody on a League team gets to ban their own champion that they choose. Other games that have ban systems like Siege, it's like your team gets 2 bans that you kind of like vote on. I think you got an attacker and a defender, and so the other team, and nobody can play those. Same thing with League. Nobody can play whatever you pick. And I think that would be the system that would work the best for Overwatch. But I do think the problem is that it does feel like you would have to ban one character from each category, because it's otherwise like, what if each team got 1 ban total? Well, it's like one role is going to be completely unaffected, or 2 roles are going to be completely unaffected. It's just going to be 1, and then like if it's DPS and they just ban, I don't know, again, I'll use Ashe as an example. You can really easily replace another sniper, and it's like, why do we even have a ban to begin with? So then it feels like you have to ban, each role needs 1 ban, and then it's like, well, there's way more DPS characters, so maybe we'd have to ban 2 DPS, and then each team has to ban, that amount. So at this point, we're 4 per team, that's 8 characters, and we're already, that's already a fifth of the roster gone. And I feel like that's just too much. The other thing you could try is that, what if you all ban together? So the whole lobby of 5 people ban 1 tank, 2 DPS, 1 support. I think that with the amount of characters that we have in this game, that might be the best solution. Because you have to remember about Overwatch is that there are very little characters that can slot in for each other super easily. Unlike League, unlike Siege, or other games with bans, if you remove Lucio from the game changes drastically. There are compositions you just straight up cannot play anymore. So you have to be really careful with how many characters you ban, because then it's going to be really hard to swap and all of that good stuff that Overwatch has. So I would say probably the best option for an in-game ban system would be the whole lobby would kind of have to agree on it. That way you're not banning one tricks necessarily, because the people on your team want to keep the one trick and the people on their team want to leave it. So you're kind of incentivized not to try and do that tug of war and tie, and more go for other picks. And I would say at least 1 per role. But then that way it's just like 1 character out of the pool per person on the team, right? Now, I guess really it's like, does Overwatch really need this? And the answer is kind of like, I don't really think so. Unlike I know there are some characters that are really annoying, but since you can swap mid map, and this is always like the big counterpoint to hero bans, since you can swap mid map, you can always try to find another strategy or character that can deny the value of that character that you don't like. And of course, it's never that simple, and you don't even have to swap. You can just change your playstyle, but that is always a possibility. And then there's always the possibility with every hero ban system is that you'll get into a random game, maybe once in a blue moon, where the banned characters are the fun ones, like Winston, Lucio, Tracer. And now it's like, okay, so I don't know, what if we're just now forced to play, Orisa and Sombra? Now, like, everyone's having no fun. And some of those really frustrating characters, they get to run free. The one thing I will say about bans in Overwatch that are really interesting is maps. And I think this is a big problem, or it could be a problem, because, the map design really determines how you're going to play the game and what characters you're playing. And some people may not understand that, and at some ranks they may not even care or really know what to play when. So if you get to Dorado, there may be people still, I don't know, banning Reinhardt. And then like, well, the game isn't really going to change that much. Maybe you ban Reinhardt so somebody on your team doesn't play it and troll the game. But then, what if you go on, same example, Dorado, and you ban one of the dive tanks and you ban 2 dive DPS and you ban a dive support. And now you guys are playing poke or something else on Dorado because you have to stitch something together to make it work. And now it's really awkward, and there aren't as many options available to you to defend on those maps. Like, what if you get into on Circuit Royale and they ban Sigma, but they don't ban Widow? And now it's like, well, what do we do? How do we even get in on a poke comp without Sigma? You know what I mean? There's some really hard problems here that, hero bans could just make the game so much less fun just because of how the maps work. And of course, I'm saying most of this at like a level where people kind of generally understand what to pick where and how to play it. I'm thinking like Masters Plus. Obviously, the rest of the game, it does matter. I think at lower ranks, bans could be worthless, or they could actually just completely kill any kind of synergy. I'm sure there's many people who play, I think many people are like, oh, I just think, Reinhardt is really dumb and I don't like him, and they'll try to ban Reinhardt every game or something. And, maybe they just like, I just don't like Junkrat. Nobody in the lobby is a Junkrat player and he's not even good right now. And it's like a worthless ban, I think there are a lot of problems. So, basically, I was listening to Plat Chat the other day, and they were talking about this, and I kind of got interested, like, maybe it is time for a hero ban system, but I wanted to talk it out with myself and just kind of put it into words, and the more that I talk about it, the more that I'm still, again, pretty against it. I've always been pretty against it. I never liked it when it was an owl. I don't think I would like this system if I were a player. And honestly, I'll have to watch some of the Face It games if they stream them, just kind of see how this plays out in matches, especially in a close match. That's what I'm really interested in, because you can't ban the same hero one or twice in a series. So what happens when you get all the way to map 5? So basically, conclusion is, hero bans, they probably shouldn't come to Overwatch, but if they did, I think they would definitely introduce some problems. And they aren't really there to fix anything. I don't think hero bans would even ever be a fix unless we really get some metas where there are some characters that are completely overbearing, unkillable. You have to have them on your team. You just don't want to play with them anymore, right? Basically, hero bans provide variety, but they also can come in and provide frustration more than alleviate some of the staleness of the game. So, as always, I really do want to know what you guys think. If you guys have even cared, if you would want a ban system, maybe you don't want a ban system anymore. Maybe you've always wanted one since day one of Overwatch. If that interests you, again, please leave a comment. Do all that good YouTube stuff. Like, comment, subscribe. Hit the bell or whatever they say. This was streamed live on my Twitch, Lane Hemingway. If this interests you to talk to me directly live and have like a chat, I would love to hear from you. I do a discussion every time I go live, which is a couple days a week. Mainly Saturdays are when I do a big stream. So always good to check me out then. If not, I've got plenty of other socials in the description, and I try to do a lot of YouTube videos so you guys have a lot to watch. But thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.